Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to Clinically Speaking, Ivy's official podcast, where we dive into the conversations that matter most to clinicians, leaders, and future partners in care. I'm your host, Bismarie, and I am thrilled to welcome you to our second episode. Today, we're talking all things clinic culture, what it means, how we build it, and the role it plays in both patient care and professional growth here at Ivy. We'll also explore what it really looks like to open your own clinic through Ivy's DeNovo partnership program and the type of people we're looking to lead those spaces. Joining me for this conversation is a powerhouse panel of experienced clinicians and industry leaders. We have Dr. Stephanie Rodzewicz. She's an occupational therapist with 24 years of experience across pediatric and mental health settings. She currently serves as clinic director of our Great Neck location in Virginia Beach and as a mentor in Ivy's pediatric OT residency program. Her expertise in DIR floor time and sensory integration bring a rich child-centered perspective to our discussion on culture and care. Terri Jeurink, a seasoned physical therapist of over 20 years, brings a specialty in pelvic health, scoliosis management, and a deep love for working with athletes of all ages. Terri is a longtime Ivy teammate, part of our network for over 15 years, and brings a strong sense of connection, joy, and clinical purpose to every room she's in. Christina Bentrewicz, an experienced physical therapist, and is Ivy's Director of Clinical Excellence and Residency Fellowship Lead. With more than 2 decades in outpatient orthopedics, Christina played a pivotal role in developing Ivy's residency programs in partnership with the Hospital for Special Surgery. She's here to share insights on clinician development, mentorship, and fostering cultures rooted in clinical excellence. And lastly, we have Justine Sheffer. She's an orthopedic recruiter with 12 years in healthcare and 8 in recruitment, 4 of which have been at Ivy. She's passionate about candidate experience and believes in finding the right fit for Ivy, not just filling roles. She brings a grounded, transparent approach to building strong clinic teams from the start. While Jamie Boulanger wasn't able to join us today, she plays a pivotal role in helping our pediatric clinicians take the next step in leadership through Ivy's DeNovo partnership program. And we're excited to share her perspective in a future episode. Whether you're a clinician curious about what makes a great workplace, someone thinking about opening your own clinic, or you just want to hear from leaders who are shaping the future of rehab, this episode is for you. So let's kick it off with Christina. Christina, can you tell me, what does clinic culture mean at Ivy, and why is it such a priority across all levels of our organization?
Yeah, clinic culture is such an important aspect of what we do every day. We really strive to create individual environments within every single clinic across the organization that really fosters community. We want spaces where people walk through those doors, whether you're a teammate, whether you're a patient, whether you're a family member, and we instantly want people to feel connected, like they're in a space where they belong, and where they're also going to be cared for. And I think the very special thing about Ivy is we have a very strong set of values within the organization that truly connects and provides like this foundation for every clinic to reflect on of how they're growing and how they're living their culture within their day-to-day. So I know it's very important. I know we fall back on our values on a regular basis. But yeah, having that environment and that feel, right? Everybody wants to feel good when they walk in those doors. So that's why it's so important, especially in our healthcare space where people are coming in for help. And then as a teammate, it's just so important to, love what you do is one of our values. And we truly, honestly want everybody to love what they do, because then that comes through in the patient care that we're able to provide.
Oh, beautifully said. That's one of my favorite values as well. Love what you do. And Stephanie and Terri, I see you nodding your head. So I have to ask, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Well, I mean, it was so beautifully put. I don't know how else you could add to that. But I agree with everything that Christina said. And I think that she kind of speaks to, thinking about being in healthcare space where you have people that are coming every day that are in very vulnerable situations. And if we can provide a culture that is very supportive of that, and all of our clinicians are a part of that, our front office is a part of that, that it can bring down the level of stress for seeking healthcare, because I think that's a big thing that prevents people from getting the care that they need, is not feeling comfortable and safe when they come in. So I think that's a huge and important piece to our culture at Ivy.
I just like to add that anytime that I'm speaking to someone, even family members that maybe aren't 100% happy with their roles, their jobs, we work 40 hours a week on average, and to love what we do and be proud of who we work with and alongside is a big deal. It shouldn't be taken lightly. And so I think, just like Christina said, going back to our values is something for us to be proud of.
Thank you both for those answers. Beautifully said. And I love emphasizing Ivy's values as well, because it truly just speaks to who we are as a company and as a team. So how do you think our culture at Ivy differs from what you typically see in the industry, Christina?
Yeah, I mean, again, having those strong values to go back on and really being able to bring them to action. One of the things we really strive for in the clinic is, we call it the clinically excellent culture. And it's always trying to level up, right? Level up yourself, level up the teammates, whether it's through your relationships and your interactions, and whether it's especially our professional development, because we're always encouraging each other to practice at the top of our license, so we can provide patients and families the best care possible. So being able to hold those opportunities that Ivy as a large organization offers all of the teammates, and for everybody to engage in and honestly connect with, right? We're across 17 states. So to be able to connect clinicians across all of those states through some of these programs, I think is something very special. And I see Everett shaking their heads, because I know Steph is involved with the pediatric residency program. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit, about how that connects people and through other programs. And I feel like it just emulates how that culture is reflected throughout the geography of our organization. And it is very strong. And I feel like that is something extraordinarily special about our culture here at Ivy.
Thank you. So well said. And we, a common theme is, we always say we invest in our teammates. Growth is so important when it comes to just company wide. Every team member, every clinician, we want to make sure they know that we want them to continue educating themselves, continue growing, continuing to try new things. So yeah, beautifully said, Christina. Thank you. And then kind of shifting into living and breathing in the culture in the clinic itself. So I want to turn the attention to Terri and Stephanie here. How does the team family vibe within the clinics and regions show up in your day-to-day experiences?
I can go ahead and start us off. That makes me think of starting out in our waiting room. To be able to even be a therapist in the gym and listen to the dialogue that's happening with the patients that are coming in, and to know that you've got patients that maybe have come to you multiple times before, and then all of a sudden they're running into someone they haven't seen in a while. All of a sudden they're having coffee in the waiting room, but also the two people who are connecting that haven't met each other before and are supporting each other. And so I think that really builds that family, that there can be that comfort, that, the space itself just offers it. And, you hope that there's always going to be that smile that approaches them when they come in. And if it's not, directly one of us, it's going to be actually another patient potentially that's there supporting them also. So.
I love that answer. And I think it's very interesting how similar those experiences are in peds and orthopedics. I think what we do for a living is very different, but at the heart of it, when you're talking about things like this, like culture, it's very similar, because I've had really great experiences where we have families that come in and they're going through some really really hard and challenging times that are very different from anything their own families have experienced. And they can come and sit in our waiting room and find other people who are going through the same experience. And we've had kids that create friendships in our gym, walk out holding hands, the parents exchange phone numbers. And then when they come back next week, they're like, we went to a jump house together. And we're like, this is amazing. You know, we joke around that we're like this friend matchmaking service sometimes for our kids that have a really hard time making friends otherwise. So I think that's one thing that we see a lot here that I really love. And I agree, it starts with our front office. I mean, our front office staff are amazing. I have a patient coordinator who's very sensitive to the needs of these families coming in, and she's always supportive and has toys and activities ready for the kids and helps the parents, you know, regulate and feel safe and comfortable here. So I love that too. And I think I would also add something that makes, I think, our clinic feel like a family is that our clinicians are also very close in that way. And we also support each other a lot. And so I think that changes how we are interacting with our patients and their families. You know, if somebody has a hard day here, they can say, I need to tap out. And I'll say, you know what, I will work an extra hour, or let me get that kid for you. Go, you know, take care of yourself. Is there anything that you need? Right. And I think that kind of culture where we are all supporting each other changes the way that we interact with our patients and our families. And they see that. And I think that they feel that as well.
That's amazing.
And both of you have mentioned, you know, that family vibe within the clinic. You know, what advice can you give to teams that are maybe striving for that? Is that something that can come natural, or how do you build that relationship with the clinicians, with the patient coordinators, you know, the PTAs? Like, how can we do that?
That's a great question. Do you want to take it, Terri?
I would love to chime into it some point. Terri, you go.
I think maybe just continuing to create that safe space. Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes as a, you know, clinic director, or as even just as a team member, like to be able to show like that you're lifting each other up, and that vibe is contagious. And so I think that right from the get-go, if, you know, from onboarding, from when the team is connecting, that we're always kind of giving that safe space and that support system, that then it should come, you know, more organically, that people are wanting to offer each other up and offer that support to one another. So I think that just really stemming right from the get-go of supporting and making that safe space.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think being curious about people, we all come with our own luggage from our life and our world, and that changes our worldview. And so it's easy to look at somebody and say, wow, they're doing this, or they're doing that, or this thing is happening, and I'm going to let that bring me down, or but if we stay curious about what that person's been through today, what their life is like, why something might be happening that way, and we can be vulnerable, then we're going to create a sense of vulnerability and curiosity with everybody else. And that sort of helps create that safe space that you're talking about, Terri.
Yep, I was basically going to say everything that Terri said, and you just said, but it is that environment, creating that environment of like inclusion and acceptance. It means so much, right? Non-judgment. Everybody strives to work together, right? Like, I've got you. I've got your back. Similar to what you were saying before, Stephanie, right? You never know what people are going through from a day-to-day basis. So it's just knowing you're working with a group of people who truly do have your back. And I've spent time in both Terri's clinic and with Steph in the clinic. And I feel like that's one of the benefits of my role, is I've been able to experience so many different clinics in person throughout the organization. And like this consistent feel, like I walk out of there feeling so good. It's like you're energized after spending time with people. Like, that's what we want. And just be right. Creating those kind of very supportive and inclusive environments, I feel like is really a key. And good communication, you know, having that strong communication with each other is another component of it.
Oh, I love what you mentioned, Christina, about leaving the clinic and feeling energized, almost feeling better than how you did when you walked out. And that's just Oh, that's amazing to hear, because that's how you want to feel, and that's how the patients want to feel. So if you feel that as a clinician and a team member, the patients are going to feel it 10 times more. So amazing answers from everybody. Thank you. And Stephanie, I know that you're in a blended clinic with orthopedic and pediatrics, and then Terri, you're in an orthopedic clinic. So I would love to hear the differences between the clinic culture that each of you experience, if there are any differences, and then especially with the pediatric side, how does that differ from the orthopedic side?
Go ahead, Terri. Why don't you talk a little bit about ortho, because our situation's a little bit different. So I would love to hear kind of.
Yeah. So I think like in the orthopedic setting, we definitely treat young people also, but yet many are coming in more for orthopedic reasons, whether it's maybe a fracture from a kiddo falling, or maybe it can be a little bit of some developmental delay or toe walker. But we can treat those young kiddos, but they're coming in with maybe some different experiences than what they will if they're at the pediatric clinic. And so I think the similarities is that those young people and the older generation too, we want to make it fun. So definitely in both settings, we're going to use equipment differently. There's no documentation until the treatment is done. But yet then being able to then transfer that over into the aging population, then you've got people are coming into us directly for typically more of an orthopedic reason. And so you've got a lot more manual skills and modality, and a lot of home-based programming and stuff. So I can definitely see those similarities between the two of kind of building that relationship and meeting them where they're at, but yet the skill set of what we're bringing them, I think kind of what it looks like is quite different.
I think it's really interesting, and I love to hear kind of that perspective, because I've only ever worked with kids, and the only adult experience I have is working next door to orthopedic physical therapists. And honestly, like working here was the first time I was like, oh, okay, you guys do things a little different. And when I say that, I mean, Terri, I agree with everything that you just said, right? We need to make it fun. We need to have, work on all these different things, but still have it fun. I would say that the big difference I see is that we're loud and ortho is quiet. So if and that is a broad generalization that can mean a lot of different things. But, it's interesting when we first started, the clinic director at our orthopedic location and I started in our roles, I think almost within the same week. It was very much at the same time. So we really had to learn each other. And she was coming from somewhere that was very different. It was all adults. There was a pool. It was pain management, right? And then she met me, and I am very outgoing, and like we get dressed up all the time. And at first she was like, okay, this is going to take some getting used to. And I was like, we'll try to be quiet. Because we would show up with a kid and we're just riding a bike through ortho, right? And they're like, that's a lot. I think over time it's created this like really amazing culture now where we have, they're ready for us and we're ready for them. And we have really great conversations about like what our needs are and like how we can meet the needs of families together. And I think over time, we've all just created this like unity where we're like, hey, can we come through on a bicycle? Yeah, you sure can. And, and what that created was that we're treating whole families now, so we'll have mom, just had a baby that isn't feeding very well. And so we have a feeding specialist who's going to maybe work with that baby. And we have a mom who's getting pelvic health, care right next door, and baby can't separate from mom. So we'll just sit on the floor. We'll just go over there. Right. That's fine. So we've treated our patients together now. We get cross referrals and we just have whole families together. So I think over time, it's just blended into this like really great family where truly everybody can come as a family and get the care that they need.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, and they must feel so good knowing that, everyone can go, and, that while their child's getting therapy, they're also getting help. They're in the same space. And that must be so reassuring. So that's beautiful to hear. Thank you both for sharing.
Yeah.
So keeping on the theme of, having that family vibe in the clinic, getting along with everyone and having that dream team of yours, I do want to shift the focus to Justine and start talking more about how we can open our very own Ivy clinic, Pick Your Dream Team, a very unique program we have here at Ivy. So Justine, can you tell us, what does it really look like to open your own Ivy clinic?
Yeah, absolutely. For those who don't know, Ivy does a DeNovo partnership. So what that means is we partner with PTs, OTs, speech therapists, BCBAs to open their very own clinic. So Ivy parts with them. They are the clinic director and part owner of the clinic. We are giving them the whole infrastructure and support the whole way, from finding the location to finding the equipment, and then, of course, building your dream team. So we are really looking for those folks that are wanting to have that passion for what they want to do in the community and have that true impact. We can teach skills, we can teach EMR systems, we can teach interview training, but we really can't train what I say grit or perseverance. A growth mindset, that's going to be super huge, especially with a startup clinic. You have to be looking forward instead of just focusing on the now. And then also teamwork and empathy, especially being in the healthcare space, but also empathy towards your team. So when you are getting ready to build your team, our talent team is absolutely there to back you up and vet candidates for you, but we ultimately want you to make the decision on who you bring into your clinic. So you're coming in with this vision of, hey, this is what I want my team to look like. This is what I want my culture to look like. Now let's develop some questions and some strategy on how we find that right fit for the clinic.
And if someone's interested in opening their own clinic, what are the qualifications that they need to have in order to do so?
Yeah, definitely. So you do have to be a licensed clinician, so a licensed physical therapist, licensed occupational therapist, licensed speech language pathologist, and a board certified behavioral analyst. So because our clinic directors and partners do have a treating element, they do have to have a license in the state that they are opening a clinic. We also are looking for those folks that have that leadership quality. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you have to have 10 years of clinic director experience prior to coming. We can pour into you from a clinical perspective, from a leadership development perspective. We even have a business school that helps you kind of learn that terminology on how to run a clinic successfully. So there's a lot of resources we have, but again, like I was saying before, we can't teach you those initial skills and just personality. Generally, personality. You can't teach that. So yeah, that's gonna be a big thing that I look for, is someone who's going to be able to pick up and be a self-starter, but also know when to ask for help. Like I said, Ivy's there as a partnership. We're doing this together. So that makes it a lot less stressful for our partners coming in, because they know that they have Ivy backing them, that has successfully opened 300 plus DeNovos at this point nationally. So.
And how do you typically support a new partner who's building their dream team, and how much of the culture, the clinic culture, is shaped by them?
Yeah, 100%. Well, 100% of the culture is determined by the partner, because again, they're going to have that final say on who they're bringing in, from their front desk to their clinical staff, to aid support. And then of course in peds, our clinic directors are either a PT, OT, speech. So looking for those two other skill sets that align with what they enjoy doing, which is treating kids. So we want to make sure that that's aligning, with what we're looking for. But yeah, it's something that you can totally control in terms of your culture. As far as support, you have our whole infrastructure. So talent acquisition, HR, EMR system, working on contracts with insurances. So, most therapists didn't get into the line of work that they did to own a business. So that's where we come in to help them with all of those extra things. So we're an extension of them throughout the whole process, even 5 years down the line. We're there to support them. So it's very much a teamwork approach.
No, that's amazing. And it's almost like we're unlocking maybe a dream they never thought they had. And now we can help them accomplish this. And, we guide them along the way. So I think it's such an incredible program that we have here at Ivy.
Absolutely.
And Terri and Stephanie, as you both are clinic directors, I would love to hear from your perspective, what do you think is the most important role a clinic director takes on when they are in this position of leadership?
I can start off. I really think that the well-roundedness, I think that, we need to have kind of a sense of like emotional maturity and that drive. But being able to really step back and see the big picture and then dive in. Because both, Justine had mentioned, you can't just look at the now, you've got to be looking ahead. And, there's ever changes that are happening, but yet then there's ever changes that are happening right now in the whirlwind of the day. And so in that whirlwind, you also need to be able to be well-rounded where you can handle that. And I can honestly say it's kind of a joke that I am not a numbers person. Like my math was not my thing. And I like numbers now through the Ivy's lens. And it's just because I can actually appreciate that the diving in and what that means kind of on that broad spectrum also. So I really think that well-roundedness is really essential.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And especially being able to take a step back. Being a clinic director means that you are putting everybody's needs before yourself. So it's like being a parent, right? But of everybody that you work with. And so I am not just treating children all day and putting them in front of myself and their parents before myself and my needs, but I'm also putting all of my teammates' needs before myself all the time. So I would say my biggest priority every week is to make sure that everybody has what they need, that they're comfortable with what they're doing, that they're in a good place, that they're not feeling burnout. I check in with everybody all the time and just make sure that my team feels strong and feels good about what they're doing. And I think in doing that and really building trust and focusing on their well-being, all the number stuff that Terri and I both hate come naturally, right? Like all those numbers happen when you have a team full of people that love what they do and feel comfortable coming and saying, I'm in it today. I love this. Or like, I love it here, but I need a minute because I'm having a rough day. And being able to come to me and say, can you help me today? I need this. Right. So for me, that is my top priority as a clinic director, is to always see everybody as an individual and always have their back and make sure that they feel supported so that they feel comfortable coming in here every day. And so they continue to love what they do.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you both for those answers. I mean, that's incredible. Especially we actually had a presentation earlier this year about clinician burnout. So it's so important to be able to have that trust, like you're saying, for your team to come to you and say, hey, I think I need a little bit of a break. And, to have that trust is important. To be able to be that transparent is sometimes difficult in any work setting. So,
I think that's probably the most important thing we can do as healthcare providers and as leaders in healthcare is be focused on our people because of burnout. Like Terri said earlier, we're working 40 hours a week. Like I said, putting everybody else's needs ahead of our own. And that's exhausting. That's physically exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting. So if we can be vulnerable with our team, if I can come in and say, you know what, I made a big mistake the other day when I did this and I found a way to fix it. Or I think I did. Let's meet about this, right? We're going to make everybody feel comfortable. They feel like they have a say in what's happening here. And then they're not going to feel that burnout as much, or they know they can come to me, right? I just think that's the most important thing in any workplace culture. And that comes from the leader. I take that as my responsibility to make sure that everybody else here feels good.
Oh, beautifully said. And Christina, I see you unmuted. So I
know. Well, and then my question to Steph is, well, then who's your support, right? Because you pour so much into your clinic, your clinicians, patients, families. Like, what does your support look like on the flip side of things?
So that's a fantastic question. And honestly, that's tough. Like, one of the things that we talk a lot about here in our clinic is having boundaries. And I discuss that with people all the time. I discuss that our boundaries are important with our families. I can take you to here, right? My boundaries with my team are important. And it's also important for me to have boundaries. So I tell them all the time, they're like, are you in a place where we can talk? And sometimes the answer is no. And I think that it's really important to model that for everybody, because they're allowed to say that to me. And I say that to them. This is not my week. I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to place a boundary. I can't handle this right now, but I am going to get back to you on that. I promise. Right. So I think that's a big part of it for me in my own burnout. But I also have a really great husband who is deployed half the year. So for 6 months out of the year, I have a really great support system with him too. He's my rock when I come home, and he really gives me a lot of support, and my kids. But yeah, but I think I lean on my team as much as they lean on me, I would say.
Yeah, that's important. And like industry research does show that boundaries is a very healthy component of culture.
Yeah.
So you mentioning that just, brought that to my mind. So
it's super important
for you, Steph. It's hard. It's
hard. I mean, we're caregivers. We don't get into this business because we want to make, $500,000 a year. We get into this business because we want to help people, and the desire to jump in and help people and help people and help people and help people is always going to be there. So knowing when to draw the line and saying, this is where I've hit my limit for right now, and allowing everybody else around you to feel that too, I think is important.
Great question, Christina. Thank you. And thank you all for being so vulnerable and transparent, because like we say, like that's the best way to communicate, and communication is key, as we're seeing in any clinic, in any situation. So thank you all so much for sharing. And now kind of going back into clinical growth and our professional development. So we've talked about how, at Ivy, you can open your very own clinic, build that dream team. Now there's other ways you can grow as well. So for Christina, what role do you think our ortho and peds residency programs play in strengthening our clinic culture?
Yeah, I've been mixed in with residency since 2018. And so just starting out with our flagship program and growing and seeing the growth within these programs, and then seeing the larger scale impact across the organization. I touched on it a little bit before, that the participants in these programs come from every single territory across the organization. And they have opportunities, right? They're hybrid programs. So they're learning together virtually. They come together in person multiple times a year. And what I've seen over the years is that it really creates these long-lasting relationships that people otherwise never really would have had. They never would have had the opportunity to meet each other, and they collaborate. And then you see the growth, because so many of our graduates move on to become clinic directors, open their own clinics, become a part of the clinical excellent culture by promoting that education and growth. So it's just been really cool to see how that has become part of the culture. I would say it's like a fabric of Ivy. And it's the participants, it's the faculty in our programs, the mentors in our programs, and just to see the impact in the way people continue to connect and like share information and share friendships across the organization. Like somebody in New Jersey, becoming friends with somebody in Michigan, and it's been a very fun thing to see. And then when we have like our director summits and everybody gets together, seeing everybody reconnect and kind of feed off of each other has been very special. That's been one of the special things throughout these programs that I was unexpectedly seeing over the years. So yeah. And then it's the education. I mean, the ways you see these people level up their patient care, which then is like the ripple effect, because then it's okay, they go through these programs, but then now their teammates are practicing this way and leveling up that way. And then other people in their areas, in their regions. So it definitely multiplies the excitement, that clinically excellent culture that we talk about across that larger geography.
That's amazing. And that actually reminded me, Stephanie, about what you shared earlier off the podcast, but that we spoke about that you host a clinical hour on Thursdays, and that's a time for everyone on your team to really dive in and share these different ideas and thoughts on patient care and new advancements in the industry. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, because I think that plays such an important role in your clinic culture specifically.
Yeah, sure. I think just shout out to Christina for all the work that she does in these residency programs, because I mean, I think it's it's for sure one of the things that drew me to Ivy, and it's one of the things that'll keep me here. And it's a lot of hard work, and it makes such a huge impact on everyone. So thank you, Christina, for that. Yeah, we have an hour every Thursday that we have grown to love, to the extent that anytime something else gets scheduled in that hour, we all become very frustrated and upset. And honestly, this is one of our hours that helps us prevent burnout. Something that I've really loved in other places that I've worked is when you get to have case studies where you say, hey, there's this child or this person, and these are the things that they're going through, and like, what could we do differently, or how could we apply what we've just learned to this child? And so we sort of have just this power hour every Thursday that's very informal, that we eat lunch together and we just naturally and organically talk about our week. And that could be anything from patient care, where we're talking about one of the residents, what they've learned. Every single person in my clinic has gone through residency or is in residency right now. So it has been just a constant influx of like new information and new ideas and excitement. And so those Thursdays give us an opportunity to sit and say, all right, you learned this in class. It's easy to take a class and say, I'm going to apply this to every single person because this is the newest thing and everybody's going to be fixed by this one thing. But we can sit down and say, okay, no, let's specifically talk about, this is the patient that I'm thinking of. How could we apply it to this patient? How could we bring their families in and coach them through this new idea? How can we support them in this really difficult time with this idea? And how can we support each other? So I think it's been such a great way for us to just reflect on our week. It's on a Thursday. Most of us work 4 days a week, and we can just kind of sit down, decompress, talk about our weeks, and all the things, all of our wins, all of our challenges and things like that. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I love that we can learn so much from each other, especially with the residency programs. And I know, Terri, you have recently become a mentor this year. And you also shared with me that you are learning a lot from your mentee because she's in the residency program. So I would love to hear about your dynamic as mentor and mentee, and more about how you're learning from each other and collaborating.
Yeah. So it's been very exciting because I've had just under 20 years of experience as a pelvic health therapist, and I truly enjoy treating head to toe. So I am not, treating pelvic health full time, but yet it definitely molds into most treatments that I'm doing just from treating that whole being. And so being able to connect up with my mentee for the pelvic health residency has been a growth opportunity for both of us, because I've got this past experience, but at the same time, she's going to some fresh continuing ed, and she's bringing that to our case studies as we're talking about patients that she's seeing and patients that we're seeing together. And so there's growth for me also. And so that dialogue between what my clinical experience and my past education brings to this new fresh eye has been great. I really enjoy it. And it's been also nice to be able to get out of the clinic that I'm in full time and go to the clinic that my mentee is at, and just be in a new light and see the similarities are obviously there between our clinics, but then we've got new friendships and new team members that I'm making that connection with. So it's been very rewarding at this point, and I'm really glad that Ivy has this opportunity for both of us. It's been great.
And we're super thankful for you both, because mentorship is just such a huge part of these programs, right? Every participant needs a mentor. And I just feel like that piece also continues to instill that clinically excellent culture, because it's like that lifelong learning component, the camaraderie, the teamwork that you're both learning from each other, you're working together through this is, I just think it's really cool to see and to hear you say that too, Terri, because that's what we hope, right? Is that the mentors are learning right alongside of the mentees.
Mm-hmm. And I have to admit that when it seems a little daunting to, take something else on, in addition to your, general being an excellent, practitioner and a clinic director that cares and all of that. But I think it's similar to like Stephanie said about like parenting, like you find a way, like it all works out and you find the bandwidth to be able to be positive and supportive to that other person that is depending on you. And like I said, we're learning together, but it has worked out very well because of maybe that support system behind us. We know that there's other people that have our backs too, that are kind of helping with some of that background that maybe we were worried about stepping away from. So.
Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate that. And these answers just have me smiling ear to ear. So it's just been beautiful to hear everyone's stories. And Christina, I'd love to ask, how do you feel, hearing so many stories like this about the success of the residency program, how it's impacted them, how it's, really inspired them and continuously just grown their knowledge of the field?
Yeah, I beam every time. I can never get sick and tired of hearing like testimonials from people from any aspect of these programs. And honestly, like we want everybody to be able to experience something like that, right? Whether it's one of our residency or fellowship programs, or whether it's another educational experience where people are teaming up and learning together and sharing and thriving and growing. We honestly, we strive, especially as a clinical excellence department, to help provide those opportunities to every clinician who's gonna grab on and run with it. Because we see the fruits of everybody's labor, right, Terri? It's not always easy. It does come with labor attached to it. And that's, par for the course. We're in these giving professions that are constantly growing and evolving and changing. So growth is definitely something that's par for the course. But yeah, to be able to provide that to everybody, and for everybody, we want everybody to want these opportunities as well. So that's part of looking for people to incorporate into your culture, people who are hungry for these opportunities.
And that's a great shift to our next question, because we really want to talk about those who might be hesitant. So hesitant to try a residency program, hesitant to open their very own clinic. What would you say to a clinician who's worried about the workload or taking that next step or stepping out of their comfort zone? And this could be directed to anyone who would like to answer.
Justine, do you want to take it first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not a clinician by background, so I will be talking more from an HR and talent acquisition perspective. But I'm a big proponent of betting on yourself, so I will just start with that. If it's something you want to do, we're going to be there behind you to help you with, whether it's starting a clinic, starting a residency program. We're really big on suggesting, if you're not sure if you want to go see a clinic or open your own clinic, go check out another DeNovo clinic and just have that partner, pick their brain. We have a whole network at your disposal. So I want to talk to someone who just went through the ortho residency last year. Let me pick their brain on what the time commitment was. And Christina also does a great job, and her team does a great job of explaining that prior to someone going into the residency as well, which is great. So it's not, any of these programs are not just going to be thrown into it. We're going to give you all of the knowledge ahead of time. And it might be something, I want to do a residency, but maybe in a year from now, we will give you that pathway and say, hey, if you want to do a residency, these are the 3 check marks we recommend before you go into a residency. So we're going to give you those resources depending on what it is you want to do with your career. So
you explained that so well, Justine.
Thanks.
we work very closely together because these programs do draw this this talent and this culture that we're looking for. But yes, we embrace everybody who wants to do it, connect them to those who have been through it or are going through it. And it's also the support, knowing they have the support of their leadership, knowing that, right, theme is like somebody has your back. We understand this is going to be a challenge for you. We understand this is going to be hugely beneficial to you. We've seen so many people, right? We've had over 300 people go through our programs. So we see how it truly impacts the greater organization. And so we want to be there to support. And if you're not ready yet, yes, let's talk about it. Let's figure out a path. And then when you're ready, like, let's go. So we're absolutely there every step of the way, and from all different levels, right? From your local to your regional level, to the clinical excellence aspect, to TA supporting this. So it really is a team effort. And honestly, and this doesn't come from me, this comes from residents over the years, their advice is just do it, is the theme of what they say when telling somebody or encouraging somebody. They're like, just do it, it'll be worth it.
I love that. And I've heard that too. So many of our residency testimonial videos, you hear it, just do it. So yeah, that really is the best thing to say. So thank you all. And kind of now talking about expansion and just the future vision at Ivy, we're always consistently growing. So Justine, if anyone was interested in opening their own Ivy clinic, how would they get in touch with you? What are the first steps they would have to do?
Absolutely. You can reach out to me directly, or we do have a DeNovo recruitment at ivyrehab.com email. But just as you see my main name here, justine.sheffer@ivyrehab.com. I'd be more than happy to have a one-on-one call with you just to kind of explain what the DeNovo model looks like, get to answer any questions that you all have. It is, there's a lot to learn about it, but it's so super exciting for those people who want to open their own clinic, but just are scared to do it for whatever reason, whether it's financial or the business aspect of it. That is just something that I definitely will cheerlead for sure.
Thank you, Justine. And then as we wrap up here, I want to ask everyone, what is one word that sums up Ivy's clinic culture for you?
So I'll go back to our values, and my favorite value, or one of them, there's so many good ones, but I belong.
Yeah.
I would say care. I just think that it all starts from us just deeply caring, and we care about each other. We care about ourselves. We care and our self-help, health, and our patients. We care about our community. We care about the relationships around us. I think just caring.
Yeah, I think one word is really hard for me. But I think, like Christina said, I think that all of our values are really powerful. But I think for me, if I was to speak from that, it would be people first.
Mine kind of is similar, but I was going to say people, the people. Yeah, to everyone's point, I mean, we're all working together as a team, and we're all impacting the patient care. I know a lot of times, in talent acquisition, we're thinking about recruiting, but we have monthly calls where our HR team will read several patient testimonials, and it's a kind of a reminder of like, oh yeah, we're bringing in the right talent to treat these patients, and everyone at Ivy has some kind of impact, whether it's the person processing payroll for our employees or customer service, TA, HR, legal. We're all supporting, and of course, our amazing clinicians locally. So we all are working together, and we all have the same vision and goal, which is what makes me stay here.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. And lastly, if someone's listening right now and thinking, maybe this is my next step, what would you say to encourage them?
Should I say just do it?
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, changing jobs can be scary. Starting a new PT job for the first time and not knowing, what you're getting into, it can be scary. That's why we always suggest, ask them questions about the culture. What is the team like? What does the day-to-day look like? These are all things that you can get, and it's free information. You're not committing to anything, but I would definitely recommend talking to myself and TA, or maybe someone who works at Ivy or have a clinic down the street and you want to pop by. Anyone at Ivy is going to tell you, what it is like to work at Ivy. So definitely would encourage you to at least, take a chance, have a conversation, and see if it's a fit, and we'll go from there.
I would say I would recommend them to just do as much as they can to get involved. So often when we have someone who is interested, we encourage them to come into the clinic and spend a couple hours just observing and interacting. And it's just been such a positive experience, I think, from both sides, for the clinicians to be able to kind of think like, oh, this could be a potential team member, someday, and to be able to kind of share their candid thoughts and support them, but then also kind of see just the general culture, the feel. And I think there's so much information that between social media and online and talking to people in the community that can testify over and over again, the testimonials and and just the experience, going onto the social media and the pictures that our marketing team does a great job of sharing, real life things online that tells a great story.
Yeah. And I would add on to that of just aligning your goals and your values with the organization, right? And if they're aligned, it's definitely worth the exploration. And I know sometimes it does make us feel uncomfortable thinking about that job change or where do I go, but use that to help guide you. And I always like to reference, like, when you step out of your comfort zone is where you're going to experience such wonderful growth. So if you are feeling a little bit uncomfortable about that change, take that as a sign to maybe take that next step and explore a little bit further, to see if it is a good fit for you and a right fit for you.
I think too, like adding on to that, like Terri was saying, I think getting to talk to a variety of people who've been through all the different kinds of programs that are available at Ivy, I think is going to be really helpful. Like I said earlier, I think that was a real draw for me. I've worked in a lot of different places where I've had to really create my own educational opportunities and my own growth opportunities, where I feel like at Ivy, there's so many, you could do a residency program, but there's also so many internal classes being offered all the time and opportunities to take these courses that, I spent 20 years trying to find on my own. And I feel like, you have a culture here that really, supports clinical excellence and says, hey, let's try all these different things. So talking to people and saying like, hey, what kind of opportunities did you have there? Were you able to use them? Because, if you want to grow or specialize in some sort of way, I think there's room for you to do that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much. That is a wrap on this episode of Clinically Speaking. A big thank you to Stephanie, Terri, Christine, and Justine. Truly, thank you all so much for coming on and sharing your stories. You have all been such wonderful guests. And just talking about clinic culture at Ivy has just got me smiling from ear to ear, because truly just hearing the experiences in the clinic are always just so wonderful to hear. And everyone always has such incredible stories to tell. So thank you all. If today's conversation inspired you or got you thinking about the next step in your career, whether that's joining a strong team or opening your own clinic, we would love to connect. And don't forget to mark your calendar for our next episode. We'll be back on Thursday, July 31st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, diving into the world of dry needling. Until then, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on Clinically Speaking. Bye, everybody.